right, this morning on newspaper headlines, we'll begin with the Sun newspaper, and then we'll take a few stories from the This Day newspaper as well. We'll also connect with The Nation. We'll find out what's new on the Vanguard, as well as Alausa Alert. Welcome to the newspaper headline segment on Your Side Mirror. I'll take our first story from The Sun, and it reads, Reps asks Ministry to refund 75 billion naira COVID-19 funds. And the House of Representatives Committee on Public Account, PAC, yesterday directed the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investments to refund 75 billion naira allocated to it as COVID-19 intervention funds to the federal government account. The committee, which gave the directive at an investigative hearing on the expenditure of COVID-19, directed the ministry to furnish it with evidence that it returned the money to the government. That's our first story from the Sun newspaper. Reps ask ministry to refund 75 billion naira COVID-19 funds. And moving on, federal government assures nurses, midwives of better working conditions. Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Ali Pate, has promised to champion a better working condition and relationship with all unions and professional bodies in the health sector for peace and stability that will culminate in improved healthcare service delivery. He solicited the support and commitment of the professional body to the dream of the presidents to revamp the healthcare sector and reposition it for effective service delivery. That's our second story from the Sun newspaper. IOC's asset divestment. Nigeria loses nothing. Following the mass divestment of assets belonging to some international oil companies, IOCs, the latest being Shell Petroleum Development Company, SPDC, Onshore and Gas Assets Limited. The Minister of State, Petroleum Resources, Heineken Lupobiri, has asked worried Nigerians not to lose sleep over the matter as the country loses nothing. Lupobiri spoke on Wednesday on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. So you can read that story for yourself from the Sun newspaper. Let's find out what's on the sports section of the Sun. AFCON 2023, Super Eagles rekindle title hope. And William Troost-Ekong's second half penalty gave Nigeria a crucial victory over host Ivory Coast in Group A at the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations. Troost-Ekong smashed home after Osmani was adjudged to have fouled Victor Osimhen following a VAR check. Osimhen broke through on goal but fired over early on, shortly before Christian Kwame shot wide at the other end from Ziadou Sanusi's misplaced header. You can read that story for yourself from the Sun. And let's move on to This Day newspaper. Takang MOFI's takeover of FG's shares in Discos to resolve structural issues in power sector. So let's talk about it. The takeover of the federal government's 40% shares in electricity distribution companies Discos in Nigeria is part of efforts to resolve the structural problems in the power sector. The chief executive of the Ministry of Finance Incorporated MOFI, Dr. Armstrong Takang, said yesterday. Takang stated that the whole essence is to ensure that operators increase the quantum of electricity to Nigerian homes and businesses. I will take another one. Wike gives December 2 deadline for completion of ongoing projects. Okay, let's see. All right, so that headline there. So let's look at foreign news from This Day magazine. Blinken to visit Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, others. So the United States of America Secretary of State Anthony Blinken will travel to Nigeria, Cape Verde, Cote d'Ivoire, and Angola from January 21 to 26. A statement by the U.S. Embassy explained that throughout the trip, the Secretary would highlight how the United States has accelerated U.S.-Africa partnership since the U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit, which includes areas such as climate, food, and health security. So that from the international scene, Blinken to visit Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, others from This Day newspaper. So from The Nation, Let's take this one. Federal government charges Emefiele with lying to obtain $6.2 million. So let's find out more on this story. The federal government has charged former Central Bank of Nigeria CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele with obtaining $6.23 million by false pretense. In the amended charge dated January 17 and filed for the Attorney General of the Federation AGF by Rotimi Oyedepo, SAN, Emefiele is accused of criminal breach of trust, forgery, conspiracy to obtain false pretense, and obtaining money by false pretense. That's from the publication there. All right, conspiracy to obtain by false pretense and obtaining money by false pretense. All right, so let's talk about this one. Ibadan explosions. 2 more bodies recovered. The death toll in Tuesday's explosion in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, has risen to 5, with the recovery of 2 more bodies yesterday. The House of Representatives said it would probe the incident that left 77 injured and 58 houses damaged, some of them completely. All right, so over to the Vanguard. We have the story that reads, new minimum wage, cost of living will determine our demand, NLC. And ahead of the new minimum wage negotiations, organized labor plans to demand wages based on the cost of living and other socioeconomic indices across the country. This came as the federal government has promised to clear areas of the 35,000 naira wage award owed its workers. The paper gathered that labor has been working round the clock to ensure that its wage demand can hardly be faulted by both government and private sector employers. So let's connect with Alausa Alert. We have a story here to take. We're connecting with Alausa Alert this morning. We have a story here that reads, PAMSEC harps on the need for data protection. The need to develop a seamless system that helps in protecting data, especially in this digital age, cannot be overemphasized. Permanent Secretary, Lagos State Ministry of Innovation, Science and Technology, Engineer Ibilola Kasumu, stated this in Lagos while declaring open a workshop aimed at developing competent data protection officers, DPOs, in the state. She urged DPOs operating in the public sector to lucidly recognize the divide between data security and data privacy. The state, she noted, is poised to develop a pool of competent DPOs, saying that the training will be a continuous process. So you can catch that stories from Alausa Alert this beautiful Friday morning. That's how much you can take on newspaper headlines. So I'll be stepping aside for Victor Terry, who's going to be here for the rest of the program. Connect with us via Facebook, Lagos Traffic Radio 96.1 FM, and on X at Lagos Traffic 961.